Princeton and like college is really hard. Like it is a big step up for high school for many people, and like that is totally okay. It took me a while to kind of gain the confidence and to feel like I found my place there.
Hey guys, I'm Kristen from College Lead. I help students with planning high school courses and extracurriculars and also guide them through the college application process. Welcome to the next episode of Campus Conversations with College Lead, where I interview current students and recent graduates of different colleges to give you a perspective of how you can prepare for college and also go through the application process, as well as a few insights on campus life. Today we have a very special guest, Bevan. She is a college student at Princeton. So Bevan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Bevan. I'm a rising senior at Princeton University, studying computer science with a minor in technology and society. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, so not too far away from Princeton, and I'm really excited to be here today. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, of course. We're super excited to have you. And it looks like you have a very strong background in tech and in STEM. So I'm wondering if you can walk me through how you got interested in computer science or even just in tech in general from maybe high school.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I was always kind of the geeky kid who was interested in math and science. And I didn't really know like what that would mean going into college, like what kind of majors were out there or like even what careers were. But during my freshman year, I was really interested in kind of doing something that summer, doing something that like could spark my interest in tech and engineering. And my dad happened to hear about a program on the radio called Girls Who Code, and thought it sounded like something I would be interested in. So he was like, "Hey, Bevan, like you might want to apply to this." I was like, "Okay, I have nothing to lose, but also I have like no idea what coding is. As far as I know, it's like just people typing words into a computer. What is that?" But it has problem solving, so maybe I'll be interested in that. So I wound up applying to that program and was eventually admitted to spend the summer at Goldman Sachs in the Girls Who Code like summer immersion program, which is a 7-week long program where you basically sit in a classroom and they try to do like a crash course on some like basic programming skills. And the funny story behind that is that almost didn't happen. So initially I like wasn't admitted into the program. I was put on the wait list. And that was like kind of devastated because I was like, oh, this sounded like a perfect opportunity. But I wound up reaching out to them. I'm like, hey, listen, like I'm really, really interested in this. Here's why. Like I know I live 2 hours away from New York City, but like I am so down to like commute into the city every day, and like my parents are on board. I will 100% join if I'm admitted. And like a couple days later, they're like, you got a spot off the wait list. So that was great. And it was a completely transformative summer. It really showed me how much I liked coding. It was a way to get my feet wet. I'm certainly not at the stage I am now that I was at back then, but it was a really good start. And I think that sparked my interest in tech.
I love how you took the initiative to say, even though you got on the wait list, to just shoot them an email and reiterate your interest in the Girls Who Code program. And I think that translates to just a lesson for any viewers out there. If you ever get waitlisted or there's something that you really want, it doesn't hurt to send out an email and just reiterate your interest in that program. Don't let anything stop you, kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now that you've gotten into the Girls Who Code program, would you say that is probably the moment where you decided, I want to study computer science? Or did you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I had like a pretty good idea that I wanted to go into tech and engineering. Didn't know if it was going to be computer science or more like computer engineering or something along those lines. Fortunately, so not the year I returned, but the following year, they were offering AP Computer Science at my high school. And I think it was really in that class that when I really got to understand like the programming fundamentals and like what it would be like to be a programmer, that I was like, okay, this is something I want to pursue in college. I was still unsure after Girls Who Code, but getting to be in an environment where I think not having like the gender stigma around, being in tech, which I had experienced in my high school, showed me that it was something that I could pursue, and that like it was totally normal for a girl to be interested in this.
Can you maybe talk a little bit more about what you mean by gender stigma in computer science in your high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So my high school, really, they had a few coding classes, and there were no girls in them, like maybe one or two in each iteration, but it was pretty much male dominated. And I think that was really intimidating for me for a while. That was not something that, girls at my high school like wanted to pursue. So I didn't really know if that was something like, I would like or enjoy. And I think that's really hard because a lot of high schools in like different parts of the country, this is a male dominated field still. And so I think for me, seeing that there were other girls who were interested in this area, like had aspirations in computer science. We had speakers come into the program who, were software engineers by trade, female. Seeing that, I was like, oh, this is totally something that I could do. But that was not apparent to me in my high school.
Yeah. And just because I know you did a ton of really cool extracurriculars around pushing against this sort of gender stigma in computer science. So could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I returned from the Girls Who Code summer immersion program. It was really like starkly apparent to me, this gender divide in my high school. I was like, okay, this is not normal, like, or maybe it's normal, but this is not a good thing. And I really wanted to give other girls in my community the opportunity to see the potential that computer science could have to open doors for them, and just be something they were really interested in. So I came back to my school district with the intention of starting a Girls Who Code club there, in order to just get people's feet wet, so that they could try it out and not feel intimidated going into some of the like official classes in my high school. So the funny story behind that is, when I pitched this idea of creating this girls only Girls Who Code club, they told me no, that it would be a Title IX violation, because they can't have like a gender only club, which is so ironic because all the classes at the high school, I mean, were like de facto male only like groups.
Yeah.
So that was really like upsetting to me, and I think that like sparked something in me to be like, all right, like no, like I'm not taking no for an answer, like I need to get this done. So I had some conversations with administrators. Like I sent them articles that I had found of like the impact that Girls Who Code had on students across the country, how important it was for high schools to start investing in computer science education. And eventually, push came to shove, they approved the program under the condition that it technically wouldn't be girls only, there would be boys allowed to join the club. And so I thought that was a good compromise. We'll be able to continue this club. Hopefully it would be girl dominated, so they wouldn't feel that kind of intimidation factor. Yeah, but that's kind of how it went.
That is amazing. I love how sort of to see your growth throughout the process, from Girls Who Code to going back to your high school and really just transforming the environment there and just building a pipeline of girls who are interested in coding and enabling them to continue that in high school. So very cool. I love that. So I guess then in high school, were there any other extracurriculars that you did other than sort of Girls Who Code?
Yeah. So another thing that I was really interested in, and to give you some context behind this, I lived with my grandparents during this time. And I think being somebody who is interested in tech and kind of tech savvy, like I was always the person my family came to when they like had a tech question. So it was really apparent to me just the difficulty that like senior citizens had when it came to using technology. So much of our world has become digitized, and there's a huge barrier to entry for people who like don't know, like literally don't know how to use an iPhone or a computer, send an email. And so I wanted to do something about that. I worked a lot with my grandparents and trying to help them, and I wondered if there was a way I could kind of expand my impact outside of my household. And I, through a family friend, like knew the woman who ran the senior center in my town. And so I reached out to her and I said like, hey, I really want to start some kind of program to just like do tech tutoring for senior citizens. So I got a few friends together who was also interested in kind of helping me. And yes, we got this group together. We volunteered on Saturdays, and basically we worked with seniors on just giving them tips on like how to use their phones and computers. They would come in with their phone, be like, I don't know how to send an email, and we would walk them through the process. And it was cool just to see them gaining more confidence throughout that, and just they were so appreciative because it's rare, like they never had like a young person, if they didn't have grandchildren in the area or children even, they didn't have anybody to sit down with them and help them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that opened a whole sort of door to a new world for them too, just to have access to technology, because so much of our day-to-day now is just spent online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So now fast forwarding a little bit, you are writing college essays and preparing the Common App or other college applications. What sort of tips or encouragement or advice do you have for any high schoolers preparing to go through that process?
Yeah. So it's a really hard process. And I think one that requires a lot of thought and digging like really deep to think about kind of what are some things that define you, like make you who you are, interest you, and is there a moment or a story that encapsulates that quality of yourself? And I think trying to tell that story through an essay is a really like good place to start, and something that like I thought a lot about. So it's like, is there an experience that I've had that I think like I could talk about myself like through this lens of this like experience, this story, whether it's like a day or like a long period of time. So just, yeah, so this is like kind of hard advice, but try to dig deep, like figure out what's important to you, what defines you, what makes you unique, and try to voice that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree as well. And that process alone will already help students to make sure their essays are not, I guess, like the stereotypical or standard kind of topics that a lot of people encourage them to avoid, because it'll be coming from whatever unique aspect of yourself you can bring and present to college admission officers.
Totally. And I mean, it doesn't need to be anything like crazy. It can be a really simple story. So I wrote my essay on about a hike I took specifically, a hike with my mom and my brother where we got lost. And I spoke just about like the connection that kind of we had built in my family, and how, being on this hike, kind of being in in nature, getting to think really deeply about like what life means, what's important to me. That was something I talked about in my essay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think for my essay, I wrote about just one lab experiment that I did when I took a summer class in microbiology. And that's not like any of the impressive ECs that I did, or for you as the hike, it's not even related to Girls Who Code.
Yeah.
But I think it's that unique perspective that you can provide, and that ties back to sort of who you are and what you want to do. That is, I think, the challenge, but then the way to make your essay really stand out and be unique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you obviously experienced a lot of success getting into many colleges. So let's say you got all your acceptance letters already. Which colleges are you deciding between or among towards the end of the process? And how did you choose Princeton?
Yeah, sure. So once I got all my like admissions letter back, figured out where I got into, where I didn't get into, I wound up narrowing it down to Columbia, Princeton, UChicago, and Amherst College. And I think I knew going into college that I wanted to be at a school that had a very good computer science program, but also had strong liberal arts, because I was really interested in kind of all disciplines. I loved my English classes in my high school, and I didn't kind of want to have to give up, that like liberal arts component. And so I think for me, Amherst was like I loved Amherst, like really small school, really strong liberal arts program. I think for me, I wanted to be at a place with a little bit more of an established computer science program. So I started veering more towards Columbia and Princeton. And that was a really, really hard decision. I love New York City. I love the energy. I really liked the campus. And Princeton was very different. Princeton is in a small town with like, it's kind of like a slow, suburban community. It has a nice little town center, but there's no like nightlife or energy or anything of that sort. But I think for me, I really fell in love with just like the campus. It was beautiful. I met some wonderful people on the Princeton preview day the day that you get to spend an overnight and get to see what the campus culture was like. So I think it was that for me, combined with the fact that at this point I was like pretty set on moving to New York City after college, and we'll see how that pans out
Yeah.
next year or so. But I was like, well, I'll always have the opportunity to live in New York City. This is kind of my time to get to have that true like campus experience. And so I chose Princeton.
Feel free if you don't want to answer this question, but I'm kind of curious. Did you ever have the feeling of imposter syndrome while at Princeton? And if so, how did you navigate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I think definitely I was like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I'm smart enough for this, especially in some of like the entry level math classes I took. It was a really steep climb from high school math, and my confidence was like pretty shaken for a while. I think that first semester, it was just really important for me to like kind of accept that failure or that feeling of failure, and to realize that like Princeton and like college is really hard. Like it is a big step up for high school for many people, and like that is totally okay. Everybody who gets into a college is meant to be there. Like nobody gets in by mistake. And just like keeping that in mind was really important for me to push on. But that doesn't mean it was ever easy. It took me a while to kind of gain the confidence and to feel like I found my place there.
I totally relate to that too. Classes in high school, I think, were much easier, but then in college, you're no longer a sort of what is it? Medium-sized fish in a small pond. You're a small fish in a very big pond.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a huge transition, I think.
It's a big transition.
Yeah, I think through that though, I gradually like found a confidence that was built on myself rather than my accomplishments, at least for me personally. And I think that's sort of what helps carry me through beyond, and is honestly a much healthier mentality or mindset to have.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So because I know you did Facebook University, which is super cool and awesome. So I'm wondering if you can share with my viewers what that experience was like.
Yeah, Facebook University, that was probably the best summer of my entire life. So freshman year, I was freaking out for like no reason, but I was like really worried about getting an internship. The whole like what is next, and like, you know, what's the next thing I'm going to achieve for, it never ends. Like once you're in college, like there's always going to be the next thing on the horizon.
It never ends.
It never ends. And so like in the spring of my freshman year, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do this summer? And I was actually in a course that I wound up like befriending people who were the year older than me, who had done tech before. And I was talking to them about like kind of sharing my like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do this summer. Like, do you have any tips? And there's this like really nice girl, Olivia, and she was basically like, yeah, here's a bunch of programs that you should apply to. It was like Facebook University. There's another program. It was Google Engineering Practicum. I think they changed the name last year. But she like listed out all these programs for freshmen that I should consider applying to. So I think this is where like my imposter syndrome came out the most. I'm like, there's no way like I'm ever gonna like get a job at Facebook or like get into this program. And I think I was really afraid of like applying because I was afraid of getting rejected. And so I don't know why, like I mustered up the courage literally the day before the application was due. I'm like, you know what? I'm definitely not going to get it if I don't apply. So I just need to submit an application. And so like I spent the day like kind of in the library, like grinding out on these essays, like trying to put a lot of thought into them. And then I just like sent it off. I was like, well, I didn't have those really proofreaded as much as they should have been, but whatever, that was it. And then like a few weeks later, they contacted me to do an interview. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So I wound up like meeting with a friend who helped me prepare. And then, yeah, I did the interview, got in somehow. And I spent the summer in Menlo Park, California at the Facebook headquarters in this like pretty intense software engineering program. So the first 3 weeks was devoted to learning iOS development, so learning how to create iPhone apps. And then the next 5 weeks, we were placed into teams of 3. We had to come up with an idea that we wanted to build. And we basically just like worked alongside a real Facebook team, but working on our own apps. And that was just like a crazy cool learning experience, both in terms of actually the technical skills that goes behind building an app, having to work in a team to make that idea reality, and then just adjusting to like professional life and like what it means to like go into work every day and like sit at a desk in an office and like communicate to your manager and whatnot. So I made some really amazing friends in that program, and that set me off on a really good trajectory for my future, I think.
Now that we're towards the end of the interview, I wanted to make sure I leave some room and space in case if you have any advice or encouragement you'd like to offer any of my viewers out there. Most of them are in high school, so they're about to go through this entire college application process. Care to share any advice?
Yeah. So my biggest piece of advice is don't stress about it. Like, it will be okay. It works out for everybody in some way. Like, everybody after their like sophomore year, they're settled into place wherever they are. Like, you'll find your place and it will be okay. I think another thing that I wish I had known in high school, a lot of people had said to me, you know, getting in is the hardest part. Once you get into college, like, it's smooth sailing from there. And I think that was like a really dangerous thing to tell me, because I got to college and I was like, oh, like now it's going to be easy. Like, I'm done. But that wasn't the case. Like, it's still really hard. Like, life is always going to be hard and like present you with challenges. And I think just like going in like equipped to like be ready to handle whatever comes your way is really important. So getting into college is not the end of it. That's just the beginning. And wherever that beginning starts, like, you will find your path.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Bevan, for your time and also just sharing all your many extraordinary experiences. And for any viewers who made it this far, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you found this helpful. And yeah, thank you so much, Bevan. And guys, stay tuned for the next episode. See you on the next one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.